finished up about a week ago, well, a little over a week ago, shaking bees down below the excluders, moving our excluders down, having single brood boxes. As you have seen if you watched our last couple videos, what we've been doing through May. Starting to, well, all we're doing now is focusing on honey, getting ready to pull honey off and checking supers. We have had to add some supers. Been just kind of peeking through into the supers on every hive in all the yards, going through yard by yard, one at a time right now, and doing that, just seeing if they are filling up, and maybe adding a box or two, another super or two, just in anticipation of hopefully having a good month of June and drawing some more comb out and get some more honey on them. They are doing really good right now. They're bringing a lot of honey in. I seen today, mainly it started really today. This is June 6th. I'm not sure whether they've started on some sumac. I really haven't seen much sumac blooming. Not real sure what they're getting today. There are still a lot of mimosa blooming, but I really don't think that's it. I'm not sure what they're getting. But that's all right. I don't care as long as they're getting something. I'm happy. But so as I'm going through these yards, I'm just peeking, seeing how much room's left. I've got a tendency to over super, add more than what's needed. I always wind up with supers of undrawn foundation at the end of the season, and that's just, I don't know whether it hurts or helps, or it definitely don't help. I don't know if it hurts anything or not, but I have I guess a natural fear of running out of room and missing part of the honey flow. But anyway, so I always keep some supers added on just in case we have a real strong flow of something before I'm able to come back to a yard. And so I make sure there's plenty of room when they start getting into a box. You know, the top box I've got on there, once they start getting honey in it, I typically add 2 more boxes and then come back, check later and see what they've done. But I usually add two new boxes at a time. So that's what I'm doing now. Any boxes, I really don't have the manpower or the equipment size to handle a tremendous amount of honey at one time. I will operate much better, and I'm gonna show you a video. I'm gonna make a video and show you our new honey setup. But I need to start pulling supers off now and start getting honey extracted. And get away from these hives a little bit, and try to get ahead of some of that. So that's what I'm man, they do not like that camera for some reason. But anyway, any supers that are completely filled out, I'm pulling those whole supers off and taking them back and extracting them. And then a lot of them I'm pulling just single frames out of. And it's a lot better to have some drawn comb and some honey in a box. I call that bait comb, because it helps draw the bees up into that box and draw out the rest of those combs. Works a lot better than having a completely empty super. So if there's, most of my supers, when I put them on, I have I'm putting like 3-4 drawn combs into them and using that as bait comb. So if they will get up in there early and fill those up, cap those off, and I don't want to pull those out if they're filled out and ready, but nothing else is drawn out. If I do get more frames drawn out in that, I am right now, as I'm looking in these hives, I'm pulling those frames, some of those frames out, trying to leave at least 3 or 4 frames drawn in the supers. So I'm just pulling some singles out using a brush, brushing them off, setting them over in a box in the back of the truck, and putting a top on them, and just filling up a few boxes like that, because I'm having to pull some honey to keep my customers supplied. So going through like that, and keeping an eye on comb honey supers and pulling them off as they are capped. But we still got the majority of our sumac coming up, so we do have a good honey flow ahead of us if the weather allows, if it will stop raining long enough. I know you need some hot, dry days for sumac, so I'm hoping we're gonna have that through June, and really top off this honey flow. These bees have been putting on a little weight the last few days. For the most part, just kind of staying at weight, not losing weight, but not really gaining any weight. Here in the last few days, they've been gaining a little each day. Probably, I don't know, maybe on average, probably a half a pound to a pound, probably a pound a hive the last few days on the average size hives. I'm sure got some strong ones that got some more than that. Today, I seen, so they've been putting on the weight in the evening. So whatever they've been on they've been getting nectar off of in the evening time. So the hives that I've got scales on, I can see the weight has dropped up until about lunchtime. About lunchtime, they start gaining weight. And then if you've never watched scales, watch the actual weight on the hive, they'll gain weight, and the heaviest they'll be is right after dark, after all the bees are back in the hive. That they'll be the heaviest that they'll be during that 24-hour period. Through the night, they steadily lose weight, and what that is these bees, like on the front of the hive right here, they're fanning air through, drying honey out. They're pushing that moisture out of the honey and out of the hive, and drying that honey out, and it's reducing that water weight, and they're steadily losing weight all night long. And then once the sun comes up, they'll start. You'll see a sharp drop off in weight. That's the bees flying out of the hive. And then if it's a lunchtime, afternoon producing nectar source, they'll start to gain that weight slowly back up, and hopefully quickly put the weight on, and then past that peak that they was at the evening before. But this morning I seen the weight started to add on right after daylight, so they have swapped over to a morning producing nectar source, whatever that is. I wish that I was more educated on when they're getting certain things. I have not seen any bees on anything, but I haven't looked at much sumac. I've seen a lot of sumac that's not blooming. I've seen a little bit that is, but I haven't seen bees on it, on what I found blooming. But I think it's gonna be sumac. Not sure if a sumac is a morning producing plant, but they are getting started today, getting nectar in the morning. So what I'm doing right now, I'm not using my skateboards today. I'm like, this super right here is one that is completely full and capped off. It's got 10 frames in, because this was all foundation. If I'm putting in foundation, I'll use 10 frames. That way I don't get any crazy cross comb built in there. Next year, with just drawn, say this box is, I'm going to put drawn out comb, I'll put just 8 frames in that, and they'll make really fat combs of honey in those to fill the space all the way in, and you actually wind up with more honey with the 8 frames in there and those big fat frames than you do with 10 frames like this. So, but you can't put 8 frames in a foundation, because they will draw cross comb in there and make all kind of crazy comb, and you'll have to start over with that comb. But so I've just turned this box was down here. I set it off, set all the boxes off, got down to that full one, set it in a different spot over here, set the empties back on, or what's not finished, back on the hive, and then set this one up on top. And I don't want to smoke my honey a lot, but I'll take a little bit of smoke and get them to moving as much as I can, on those frames. I've got a little blower, little blower machine. I'm gonna try to gently blow the bees without blowing them all out on the ground, just to get them moving and hopefully move down into these boxes here. Clean the bees out the best I can. Now I'm taking them over here. Got a couple of boxes. I'm putting single frames in these until they're filled up, and then I'll stack another one on top, just keeping them closed up, because these bees have stopped for the day gathering nectar, so they will rob those frames most likely. So I got a top on the bottom of that box and a top on the top of that box, and it completely seals it off, so I can stick my honey frames in there until I get finished. And then got some help coming. My truck's full. I'm gonna load them on his truck. That's why they're sitting to the side. But that's how I'm doing the single frames. I'll just stick this box right on top or below one of those boxes, and just getting enough honey to get some extracted for my customers, and trying to get ahead on this extraction. Trying to get as much done as I can before we pull everything at one time in July. Pull a couple frames out of that box that were capped. So that's spacing on a 8-frame box. And you only do this with drawn comb, but 8 frames. So those big gaps in that, they will close those frames together and leave just the bee space between them. Those will be some really thick frames when they finish filling them out and get them capped. Those frames will be very, very thick and heavy with honey. This 8-frame box right here will eventually weigh more than, say, this 10-frame box below it, completely filled out. So this is the way to go once you've got enough drawn comb to do this. If you're considering a blower to blow bees out of frames, I used to use a backpack blower, a really nice backpack blower that worked really good. I mean, it worked good enough. Very expensive backpack blower, but it's heavy to tote around all day blowing bees out. So I got this little blower, and man, I highly recommend this Makita blower. This thing blows harder than the backpack blower that I had before, and it weighs like 3 pounds with the battery. Works really good. I just want those bees to get moving. This air will do it. Just blow a little burst of air in there. That'll get them to crawling. They'll crawl down into the hive and empty that box out. And then I'll take it and set it to the side and close it up. Most of these there's no brood in here, so most of these bees are going to be older bees that can fly. Really don't hurt to just blow them out. Just blow them onto the ground. They'll fly before they hit the ground. This blower will certainly clean it out. It will get every single bee out of the box. That's, if you don't want to invest in skateboards, fume boards are aggravating. Flying back in as fast as I can blow them out. You don't want to fool with those things. Just get a blower. Do this right here. Blow them out. That is a completely clean super. There's no bees in it other than what's flying back. Those single frames, as I pull them out, I just keep the brush in my pocket. I pull it out and just brush the bees right off in the box and take them over and set them in my empty empty box till I get a full box. This hive like this, not sure if you can see, but there's 9 frames. These are all drawn out. There's 10 frames drawn out in here. They are about halfway filled with honey. If you got any cap frames in here, if you're doing this is a good box to pull. Whichever ones are capped, go ahead and pull them out. I just stick some foundation or some drawn comb that I've already extracted back in the empty spots. With them already drawn out like this, you can they're not capped, so it would be good just to spread them apart and leave less 8 or 9 frames in it, and they'll fill them even thicker with honey. That'd be the best thing to do since they're all drawn out. But if you got foundation still in there, you want to keep them frames tight together against that foundation. Keep them from drawing some crazy comb in there. But that's the way I'm doing the single frames. Just pulling them out, brushing them off, and adding frames back in if needed. Another good thing about this blower is it's a variable speed. You can turn it where it just barely blows. That backpack blowers don't do that. So I like to start out with down low. Just gently blow the bulk of the bees. Either easily blow them out. I've got it sitting right on top of the hive that they belong to, that they come from. It either will blow them out, or the bulk of them, it just kind of drops them on the hive, on top of these boxes right behind this one standing up that I'm blowing out, and mainly just gets them to crawling. They'll crawl out onto that box. When I've got the bulk of it done, I'll turn it up and finish blowing the rest of the box out. Now all those bees are flying around that open hive, and they're quickly getting back in there. After I get the bulk blowed out, what I'll do is take it and set it off to the side over here and blow the rest of them out, and then carry it over there and store it in place. Well, we wound up with a little bit of honey. This is the second time I pulled off of this yard like this. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 supers full. Actually, 6 of those were full capped off supers. That on the top is some single frames that I pulled. But that's pretty good for the second time I pulled full boxes off. There's only 25 hives on this yard, and a lot of these shorter stacks you see are splits that I made in the spring, earlier in the springtime. So there's not that many honey producing hives here. It's a fairly small yard. Got to get it repopulated. But these boxes that's left, it's got a lot of honey in them. They're just not ready to pull anything off yet. But they're getting close. Another good thing is they all had that second deep in place, and all these second deeps, except some of the splits, are not full. But the existing hives here, in every yard I've got, has got a deep box full of honey sitting on every hive, not counting the supers. So I'm gonna wait and deal with those deeps all at one time. That's gonna be when I knock them down to that. All the bees will be pushed down to that single box in the bottom. We'll extract those deeps out, and then take that excluder off, come back and set the extracted out second deeps back on place, and we'll feed the bees back up a little bit. We'll make some splits at that time also. Pull some splits out, feed the bees up a little bit, and prepare for the fall. We'll probably try to get these hives built up a little, or keep them built. They're going to be strong. We'll keep them in good shape for the fall, and probably throw some supers on, hopefully get a goldenrod flow, and make splits in the fall also. we'll see. We'll see how this honey flow goes. We gotta quit getting so much rain, but things are still in good shape right now if we have some good weather. But we're gonna go look at some comb honey supers and maybe pull some of those off. Going through these comb honey supers. You need to manage them a lot different than your regular supers. You gotta have them on strong hives, and you gotta pay attention to timing. You want to place your supers early in the spring, early in the flow on your strongest hives. And going through the season, if you have swarms, queen issues, something like that on hives with comb supers on them, you got to do a little manipulation, and that's what we're doing now. On some of these, I've got I'll go through and check. Some of these, like this one here, it's got a good population of bees in it, but they have not started working that comb super yet. Looks like that may be about the same way, and it could be. Just looking at the front of that one, I can tell that hive swarmed. This one may not have, could have, but just got to pay attention to the populations in them, and you know, consider what part of the flow you're in, what your timing's looking like. Right now, I'll go in and check them. Got a lot that's ready to pull or getting really close, and when they do reach that point, I will take. Let me grab one and I'll show you. I will take a skateboard. This is a skateboard, and it sets up on the hive just like that. And the bottom side, they have a hard time. They have a hard time getting back out. It pretty much empties the hive out of these, or the super anyway. So I'll set them off, set the skateboard on top, and then set the comb honey super right back down on top of it, and leave it for a day. For one box, just leave it for one day. But if they're not drawing, we got a month left in our flow, and if they're not drawing comb in it yet, I'll pull those off and put them on the truck and move them around till I find a good strong hive. If I need to move one, I will find another good strong hive. I'll pull the supers off of it and set that comb honey super by itself on top of that hive, and get it drawn out. We've got a good flow left, hopefully, through this next month of June. We're just May 31st. We hadn't got into the sumac bloom yet, and we usually make a lot of honey off sumac. So if you get them on a good strong hive, even the bare foundation in your comb honey, you know, for us, a good sumac bloom, with just that one super on it, they should get in there and draw it out and get some honey in it, get it capped off. You have to kind of look at each one for what it is. They're all going to be a little different. A lot of these may be, say, halfway drawn out. May have, if it's got 9 or 10 frames in it, may have half of them capped, and some on the outside that's not full of honey yet. Maybe they're pretty much drawn but not full of honey. Rather than leaving it just like it is, a lot of times I'll pull that off. I'll put a regular super on, and then set that comb honey super back on top. And that way, if I don't catch it in time, I have a good few days in a row of a real good flow. I don't want them getting plugged out. I don't want them finishing that comb honey super and then plugging out the nest, the brood nest. So I'll lift it off. I'll put a regular super up under it and set it right back on top of it. And with that honey up there in that comb honey super, they're going to get up there and finish that first before they get down. Especially if I like to use set foundation and place up under that. That way it gives them, that way I know they're going to get up there and finish that comb honey super before they start on that foundation. But at least it gives them something to do if it does fill up, rather than plug the brood nest out. And of course, if they're real close to being done, pretty much right at being capped within a couple of days, you just it's better just to leave them just like they are and come back in a day or two and pull them off as soon as they're ready, or set them on your escape boards, and then add some more supers. But especially if you're selling it as dry comb honey, then you want to be able to get them off as quick as possible before those white cappings get tracked up and start getting dark.